The ultimate ultralight tethered tree saddle showdown, the Mantis versus the Phantom. Did I really just do that in one take? Man, I'm good. What's up, guys? Today we are back again to talk about tree saddles. Is there anything else to talk about? All kidding aside, so Tethrd just released the Phantom saddle for 2020. So by request, basically, we're gonna go over the differences between the Mantis and the Phantom. Now, I've put a lot of time into both of these saddles. I've had my hands in the design of the Phantom, not so much the Mantis, but I got to test the prototype Mantis all the way through the production models, and I hunted out of this for a full season, and I put a full season into the Phantom as well. So I think that I could speak to the differences between the two, how they feel while walking to the tree, while climbing the tree, and while sitting in the tree for hundreds and hundreds of hours. So I may be a bit biased. As most of you know, I actually work for Tethrd. I get to test out these products, and I get to spend a lot of time in the tree. So I think I can speak to how the saddles feel, what makes them different, what makes one better than the other. And today I'm basically just going to compare the two. I'm going to try to show the differences between the two. And for those on the fence about buying a new saddle, you know, I'm not trying to push you one way or the other. There's other brands out there that make great saddles as well. I just want to inform everybody what the differences are. If you have a Mantis already, whether or not you might think about upgrading, or, you know, maybe you want to keep your saddle and run it for another year. I'm not trying to push a sale on you. That's the last thing I want to do. I just want to inform you, show you the differences between the two and what to look for. So let's get into it. So this is the Mantis in my left hand. You can see it packs down about the size of a softball, a little bit bigger, and the same for the Phantom. Specs wise, the Mantis comes in 3 sizes: medium, large, extra large. The Phantom comes in one size fits all. So the Mantis has a fixed bridge, 24 inches. The Phantom will go from basically 0 to about 30 inches. Weight wise, you're looking at right at 16 ounces for a medium Mantis, and for the one size fits all Phantom, right at 21 ounces. So depending on the size of the Mantis, you're looking at a 3 to 5 ounce difference in the weight of the saddle. Construction wise, you're looking at the same mil-spec mesh on both saddles, a lot of the same seatbelt webbing that is basically all rated the same. The difference lies in the construction of the saddle, basically, and I'm going to go over that right now. So this is the medium Mantis. As you can see, it's got kind of a V shape to the body of the saddle. It's very pliable. As you can see, the top belt, you can easily fold it up, and very easy saddle to pack, and that's what a lot of guys like about it. The thing about it being so pliable is that it really doesn't hold its shape all that well. If you hold it up like this, you can see the waist belt actually stays in a straight line. And if you hold it up by the bridge loops, it just kind of collapses on itself. So it's a very pliable saddle that is very easy to pack if you like to pack it. All right, now getting into the Phantom. So you can see right off the bat that the shape of the saddle is a good bit different. It's slimmer, it's not as tall top to bottom, and it doesn't really have a V shape to the bottom. It's more of a football symmetrical shape, so it's basically the same top to bottom. You'll also notice too that the construction of the saddle, it's got a little bit more rigidity top and bottom, so I can actually hold it out here by the bridge loops, and it will actually hold its shape. And that is a big deal when it comes to comfort. I really think that is what sets this saddle apart from the Mantis, in that it has a little bit more rigidity, and even though it's a smaller saddle, it actually distributes the weight a little bit better. So if I hold this saddle up, you can kind of see that it holds a cupped shape. So if you look at it this way, the saddle is not in a straight line. You don't have any straight lines on this saddle. It's got a curve to it, and it holds that curve. And with the more rigid construction, top and bottom, it just really holds that shape, and it really helps keep the saddle in place on your body. a lot of people have complained about the Mantis wanting to ride up after a little while, and the induced cup and the construction of this saddle actually really helps hold it in place a lot better. And that's going to be probably the biggest difference between these two saddles, is just the construction and the way it holds its shape. So that's the number one difference that I'm going to say between the two saddles, is the shape of them. So the next thing you're going to notice on the Phantom, on the bridge loops, are these little bumps here, and we call them comfort channels. So what this effectively does is it places your bridge loops in the side loops of the saddle and holds it right where you want it. And what that does is it transfers the pressure from top to bottom. And you know, when you're sitting for a long time, you know, some people like to change up the position of this. What these do is just really helps to hold that position and fine tune it. And that's a big deal when it comes to comfort for an all-day sit. I put a lot of all-day sits into this saddle, and I found myself every few hours just adjusting this one comfort channel down or up just to change the pressure points a little bit. It also gives you a reference point. So in the dark, you can feel your balls and you can tell exactly where you're at, and you can kind of count your balls in the dark. 1, 2, yep, 2 balls. You can go in between them, and you know you're going to be comfortable right off the bat, and it just makes finding comfort a little bit quicker. So the next big change on the Phantom versus the Mantis is the Lineman Loop setup. So the Mantis actually has a continuous loop of webbing that goes top and bottom and runs the full length of the saddle, and it forms the Lineman's Loop, and it actually pulls from the top and the bottom. Now, a lot of people overlook this feature because it's honestly not that exciting to look at. It's just a loop. Every saddle has Lineman's Loops on them, or most of them do. But when you're climbing and you're using sticks or spurs or bolts or whatever, and you got to go around a lot of limbs and you're really leaning into your lineman's rope as you're climbing, this is a huge upgrade in comfort. So there's basically 0 pressure points whenever you're climbing, because the way the webbing runs around the entire body of the saddle, it's pulling from the top and the bottom, just like you'd be sitting in it. So it's a whole lot more comfortable. The Mantis just has the one loop on top, and it basically pulls from just the top waist belt of the saddle. So it's perfectly safe. It works just fine. But as you're climbing, and say you've got a harder climb that takes a little bit longer and you're really leaning back into it, you can really feel that pressure on your waist. So the fourth big difference in the Phantom is the bridge. Now, adjustable bridges are not a new thing. There's been a lot of saddles in the past that have had adjustable bridges. The big deal with this bridge is that it's an amp steel bridge, and it's not a whoopee sling. So it's a prusik setup, which that in of itself is not all that special. Prusik knots are really not that exciting, and they've been done a million times before. But the beauty in this bridge is the construction of it. So this is a 1/4 inch piece of amp steel that is spliced all the way back through itself, and it's using a 3/16 prusik that is a continuous loop splice. So there's no extra knots on the amp steel, it's just a prusik knot. So I tested this all year. It holds absolutely awesome. It holds way, way better than you think it would. Amp steel by nature is pretty slick, but constructed in this way, with the bigger diameter of it spliced back through itself, it really, really holds well, and it tested extremely well. We could not get this to fail in a drop test on the saddle. So it's a pretty big deal. Another thing that I like about this bridge is that it's the same diameter from the beginning to the end, so you don't have that taper like you do on the Mantis. So as you're sliding, you don't feel any difference, because there is no difference in the diameter. On the Mantis, you've got a tapered berry that runs on each side, and as you pivot hard left or right, you can kind of feel that. And it's not a big deal, it's just a difference. Now, another benefit to this bridge is, you know, a lot of people ask, you know, they see the buried end of the splice poking out of the amp steel, and they think that it's a problem and they're worried about it. And we get asked that a lot, you know, is my bridge breaking? Is there something wrong with it? And there's nothing wrong with it, it's just the splice poking out. So this bridge, you don't have to deal with that. There's nothing poking out, it's nice and smooth all the way through. And as you're wearing the saddle walking in, you can cinch it all the way down to nothing. which is extremely nice and probably one of my favorite features of the saddle. So another difference between the Phantom and the Mantis is the leg loop placement. So the leg loop placement in the Phantom lives right inside the bottom edge of the saddle right here, and there's a little tab that sticks out, and that's where you connect your leg loops to. So in the Mantis, there's two locations, on the waist belt and on the outside bottom of the saddle. Different people prefer different hookups on the Mantis. It just depends on, you know, how restrictive it is while you're walking. So the Phantom with the leg loop on the inside with this tab, you actually cannot feel it while you're walking. It doesn't, the leg straps don't bind at all. This is honestly probably the best wearing saddle I've ever tried, because it's ultra lightweight, and the way it hugs your body when you're walking, it's not restrictive at all. You honestly don't even know you're wearing it. If I didn't have my gear pouches on the side, this is like wearing, you know, an awesome fitting pair of pants, to be honest. So that's another big upgrade from the Mantis, is that the leg strap location has just been fine-tuned to the point where it's just not an issue anymore, and you don't mind wearing the leg straps. All right, so I've got the Mantis on, and just so everybody knows, I've got the straps on this saddle trimmed down a good bit. This is actually my son's saddle that he's just past season, so if you wonder why they look a little short, that's why. But so I've got the Mantis on, I've got it just above my normal belt line, and this is how I would wear it while walking in. So I've climbed the tree, I'm on the platform, I've hooked into my tether, and now I'm gonna sit back. So to get comfortable in the Mantis, I would always loosen the waist belt and drop the saddle down a couple inches. So the top of the waist belt is basically at the top of my butt crack. So from there, to get comfortable, I would have to grab the side loops of the bridge and kind of pull them back. So that basically puts the pressure on the bottom side of the saddle and takes away those pressure points. Now, if you notice, the Mantis is taller top to bottom than the Phantom. Where the Mantis naturally wants to ride on me is in a slimmer profile. So I don't know if you could see it or not, but the bottom of the saddle has actually folded up a little bit, and the top of the saddle has actually moved down to the point where the saddle is only about that wide. I can't run the Mantis fully extended. I don't really have a butt to speak of, so for me to get comfortable in the Mantis, making it a shorter profile actually makes it more comfortable. So right there, I'm pretty comfortable. Like, this is where I would hunt using the Mantis. This is how I would lean back into it most of the day. Now for sitting, I do feel a little bit of pressure on that top band and on the outside of my hips. Now it's nothing bad. I mean, it's just a little bit of pressure, but I can definitely tell that it's there. Now this would be comfortable for me. As far as adjustments go, I'm pretty much out of adjustment. I can't really do anything other than if I would happen to move or shift my weight a little bit, then I would take and readjust these side loops where they're sitting on the bridge connection. So as you can see, I've got my tether height right at nose level. I usually run it pretty low. This tree, I couldn't really run it much higher unless I go above this limb, but if I would have to run this higher for whatever reason, if I had limbs or something in my way, that's where I would have a little bit of trouble with the Mantis staying comfortable throughout the sit. Now, it's not a deal breaker. I can deal with it and I'm fine, but I just don't have a lot of adjustability. One, because the bridge is a fixed length and I don't have adjustments in the side loops to hold that position as I move the tether up and down the tree. So I've put hundreds and hundreds of hours into the Mantis itself. I've had some sits where, for whatever reason, the tree lean, the angle, tether height, I just couldn't get super comfortable. I was never to the point where I was in pain, but I just couldn't dial in that ultra comfortable sit. Now where I'm sitting right now, I'm pretty comfortable. I could sit like this for several hours and not be in any discomfort at all. So overall, the Mantis is a comfortable saddle if you take your time to learn these small adjustments. you know, sliding it down where it wants to ride on your body. Once you learn those few adjustments, it's a pretty comfortable saddle. All right, so now I've got the Phantom. I'm wearing it just like I was the Mantis, just right above my normal belt line. I've got the bridge cinched all the way up, so the side loops are nice and tight. So at this point, I would be on my lineman's belt, and then I would just lengthen this. I usually go lengthen it all the way out, hook it up, and then sit back. Now, I wish you guys could feel the difference in this. So if you notice with the Mantis, I had to loosen up the waist belt and I had to lower it down to get comfortable. So I did not adjust this at all. It's still sitting right where I was wearing it, you know, as I was climbing the tree. So basically I just sat back in it and I'm comfortable. Like I could literally sit here for several hours without adjusting anything. So the nice thing about this saddle is, depending on tether height and all that, I can adjust the bridge to be as short as I want it, which is really nice. And then I could adjust the comfort channels to put pressure either on the top strap or the bottom. So if I'm sitting for any amount of time, I like to bump the comfort channels down a little bit to where I'm putting a little bit more pressure down here. And it just really gives it a good cupped feeling, like it's not going anywhere. For the most part, when I'm leaning, I actually like the comfort channel to be in the top slot. It just feels right to me. And that's the nice thing about this, is you can adjust it to whatever you prefer. So if you start feeling pressure up high, you can move it down low and it stays there. So you can maneuver, make shots, whatever, and it's not going to move. And you also have that reference point to know exactly where you're at in there. So right now, the way I'm sitting in this saddle, I feel zero pressure basically anywhere. I don't feel any on my hips. It's just an even pressure from top to bottom. It's just extremely comfortable. I really can't describe the difference between it and the Mantis. And not that the Mantis is uncomfortable, but the shape of this saddle that's where the biggest difference lies to me. Sitting all day in this saddle was absolutely zero issue for me this past season. I sat daylight till dark multiple times and was extremely comfortable. I can't ever remember a sit where I was in pain or had discomfort or I just wanted to get out of the tree. Like, that just never happened for me. So I generally run my bridge a little bit longer, usually adjusted all the way out. I was hunting a couple weeks ago and I actually had adjusted my tether down, and then I can run a short bridge. Like, I've got it really short right there. And with the comfort channels in the top position on both sides, it takes almost all the pressure off the bottom of my legs, and it really gives a really good secure feeling. So the reason I was running it this way is because I was hunting with a muzzleloader and I had a screw-in tree hook right here that I was using as a rest. So with my bridge long, I was finding that it was getting in my way of the gun whenever I would bring it up to take a rest off that hook. So I adjusted everything down and out of the way so I could easily pick up the gun and rest off that hook. And with a short bridge like this, it obviously wraps the saddle around you more, and you would think that it would be uncomfortable, but this actually feels awesome. And I could see myself running a really short bridge for like an early season hunt, really anytime basically. It's just a different feel, and it's super comfortable. So I hope this comparison video helps you guys make an informed decision. I'm not out to sell anything. I just wanted to show the difference between the two and my thoughts on them. So if you have a Mantis that you've used this past year and you're comfortable in it, you know, maybe you want to run it for another season before you upgrade. But if you're looking to get into a different type of saddle, or you're looking for something new, I would really take a hard look at the Phantom. I really try not to sound biased in what I'm telling you guys, but honestly, the Phantom is the best saddle I've ever used. And I'm not just saying that because I work for Tethrd. If this stuff wasn't good, I wouldn't work for them and I wouldn't use it. That's just how it is. But I've put hundreds of hours into both saddles. I can get comfortable in both. I just find it a little bit easier to get comfortable in the Phantom. I really enjoyed hunting out of it this past year. I really tried to find flaw in it wherever I could, so I could, you know, give the rest of the team that input to really make the best saddle possible. And honestly, I couldn't find anything that I didn't like about it. It's just a super comfortable saddle. It remains that ultralight weight that we always try to go for. So for a saddle that weighs, you know, 21 ounces, it's just the comfort of it is really incredible. And you know, if you're looking for something different this year, I would take a hard look at it for sure. So hopefully this review and comparison helps you make that decision. And I just want everybody to be informed of what the differences are. And there are some differences. I wish you could feel the difference, you know, as I'm showing it to you. But all I got to say is you have to try it out to believe how comfortable it is. You know, if you want to try a saddle out before you make a purchase, Tethrd is doing a bunch of teach and train events, you know, all over the United States this coming summer, spring and summer. So get on tethrdnation.com, look and see if there's any teach and train events close to you. We are going to be at a bunch of different shows. So, you know, look up and see where we're going to be here in the future, and, you know, try one out for yourself before you make that decision. But hopefully this helps. And if you have any suggestions, any questions, feel free to send us a message, and I'd be glad to help you guys out. So take care.